Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you all are having a good time at re:Invent. Today, we are going to talk about our journey using Snowflake and building a Slackbot for conversational analytics. Quick introduction, I'm Kalai Armugam, Director, Business Intelligence at Electronic Arts.
And Vlad Valeev, Chief BI Architect for Company Operations.
Background about EA. Here is the agenda. We'll talk about a little bit about EA and what made us think about building a Slackbot and how we adopted Snowflake in the enterprise and how we build a conversational bot. And we'll talk about the benefits and a quick demo. And in the end, we'll have a Q&A session. About EA, we are a global leader in digital interactive entertainment, and we develop and publish games on consoles, mobile, and PCs. Our last FY19 revenue was $4.95 billion. And you can see some of our popular titles here: FIFA 20, Apex Legends, Madden, Sims, etc.
Okay, a few words about how all that started. Over the last 10 years, entertainment business has started changing rapidly. I mean, some of you probably still remember borrowing VHS tapes or CDs to watch the movie, and, well, you're all watching Netflix, Amazon Prime, and whatever. Same happens for computer video gaming. Our company, as everybody else in the entertainment business, started going digital at a rapid clip. When I joined company about 6 years ago, we were right in kind of middle of that transition. But a lot of legacy of old logistics supply chain processes were still in place. Traditionally, our company being represented in all 3 major regions in North America, Asia Pacific, and Europe, had its own local processes to manage supply chain and sales processes and publishing of video games. Once the business started changing and become digital and global, all these processes became insufficient for supporting business at that velocity. Data velocity increased dramatically, but business processes were lagging behind. When I first joined EA 6 years ago, my first project was to solve lingering for the last 5 years problems that they call 11 days delay. What it meant is company could not get full picture of sales across the whole worldwide system for 11 days from the day of sale. Can you imagine 11 days delay before you can react to any marketing event? That's eternity. As we start going digital, talking about data that's 2 weeks old is not even serious. So about 3 years ago, in 2015, everybody in the company realized that this new world requires new solution. We started working on a project we call internally Sales Analytics, or Veracruz, that was consolidating data across all sources of sales, across all regions and across all business verticals. We had to consolidate processes that were scattered across different business divisions in different regions, dealing with different sales and publishing practices, dealing with different currencies, different ways of measuring business and interpreting KPIs. It was a very challenging process because prior to that, a lot of business folks didn't even talk to each other. They couldn't agree on how to measure the business because people were arguing what net sales were versus revenue numbers. So during that process, we decided it's not a good idea to switch our technology stack. We decided that it was too challenging solving business process problem and technology problem at the same time. So we essentially just doubled size of our on-prem Oracle rack from 3 nodes to 6 nodes, cross our fingers and hope that it will sustain us. As you can see, we are global IT, so our business customers are global publishing, sales, finance, demand planners, studios, marketing folks. We had to bring all of them together, make them agree on what big picture should look like. And we achieved that in 18 months, and we came out with this new product called Veracruz that consolidated cell analytics feature across the board and made everybody agree to that. It really helped all analysts in the company to see data at their fingertips right away as soon as this data becomes available. But our platform started falling apart because it was legacy system, not even designed to hold that kind of pressure. We needed to update data 3 times a day, deliver fresh data to the beginning of business on every region. But our refresh process on all platform was taking 11, 12 hours. With all the tuning, we could not do that 3 times a day. So we started going to some compromises, doing partial upgrades, delivering some data that were refreshed only for shorter period of time, every day, 3 times a day, and then doing long process on weekends, trying to catch up. So business people would have to look at partially updated data in one side that were updated daily, but if they need longer trend, they needed to look in different place. It would have some discrepancy on the tail end of that, but at least it will be updated as of last week. So that was not really pleasant user experience, and even so, business users had huge improvement on their lives that they didn't have to manually collect all this data, massage them through Excel spreadsheets, and trying to consolidate them. It still was not ideal situation. So we knew from the beginning that our data platform is questionable, but at that point we realized that, yes, we have to do something about it. So we started looking at on the market at different platforms. We looked at big data platforms, we looked at cloud providers, we looked at in-memory systems. And after all this evaluation and some prototyping, we found one young company that was just shipping this product of less than a year at that point. The company was called Snowflake. That was a cloud SaaS provider of data platform. That was advertising some features that sounded like sci-fi. Time travel? No copy cloning? That was really interesting. So as skeptical as we were at that time, we decided to give it a try. So surprisingly, the whole prototyping process took us a few weeks. And we did it unaided, just by our own force in engineering, just a few people. We migrated our entire data warehouse to Snowflake, and immediately queries that were running for 45, 50 seconds after months of tuning started running in seconds. After we looked at underlying platform and we realized what can be improved, we switched to the new architecture. And
so as Vlad mentioned, right? So data latency was an issue, which is common in many of the organizations. It depends on the platform you use. And platform scaling, again, right? As he said, 3-node rack to 6-node rack, horizontal scaling, vertical scaling, you name it. It's all challenged with legacy platform. And another thing is tuning, right? So where should I add index? Do you need to partition it? Cost of ownership, how many DBAs I need to have, right? And again, delivery of the solution, right? So if I have to set up my test environment, I need to take a backup from production, and it takes like 2 days, 3 days. If something goes wrong, I need to restore from the backup again. That takes another 3-4 days. So when we implemented Snowflake, so number one, we were able to deliver the data within 15 to 20 minutes to our end users, compared to 6 to 7 hours, right? And also, we used to have 2 different refreshes, every day refresh plus once a week refresh, where we do historical reload. So with Snowflake, we just had one version, just runs with a microservice. We run every 5 minutes, 10 minutes based on our need, and provide the data to the end user as soon as it's available in the source. And to overcome all these challenges, data latency, platform scaling, tuning, we took advantage of all the features offered by Snowflake. Time travel, cloning. We have not used clustering, but that's something we looked at too. And auto scaling, the platform scaling, right? So we don't have to worry about whether it's a peak period, month end, quarter end, we don't need to worry about it. And also, it's pay as you go. We don't need to worry about shutting down the compute instance, whether it's going to cost money or not. So it's all taken care by the platform. Now, since we don't have to worry about performance tuning or longer development time, we slowly started migrating. We started with sales, then we slowly started migrating all these different subject areas into Snowflake, and it became a central data platform for us. So you can see sales started with 4 to 6 terabyte compressed. Now we have about like 100 terabyte compressed, including all the subject areas I have here. So the enterprise data platform not only provided, not only improved the data latency, but it is also helping us to build advanced analytics, because we are not worried about or focusing on fine tuning, and other things. So the next thing is for data scientists, we are able to provide sandbox for data exploration. So we have a governed databases, and we also provide sandbox for data scientists where they download the data, combine with their data, and do additional analysis. And another big thing is sharing of data, right? We always have to export it, FTP it, and send it to other groups, other business groups. So here we have multiple accounts where we create a share where we don't have to have a copy of the data, and they can access our data and we can access their data. And the adoption of this platform grown significantly, and it's growing. And here's our future state architecture. I'll talk about the data ingestion part. So we are taking advantage of AWS tech stack plus Snowflake. And you can see variety of sources here, starting from standard databases, Twitter feeds, Facebook feed, comma separated file, you name it. And we are in the middle. We are taking advantage of Lambda, Firos, Kinesis, and SnowSQL, Python, whatever is applicable based on the source. And in the middle, you can see variety of Snowflake editions. And today we are using the Enterprise Edition, but we will be using the Enterprise Edition for sensitive data in the future. A project is coming up. And you can see, in the middle, you see the IT governed, where we have a standard model built for the end users, proper metrics defined. And the second layer is the sandbox, where the users or the data scientists will access the data and explore it and get additional insights, whatever they need. And the last section is data delivery. You can see we have scientists or business analysts directly writing SQL, getting the data using SnowSQL, Python, or whatever tool of choice. Then we also have self-service BI tools, which is Tableau, Power BI. They can connect and blend the data. And the third one is the AI service, which we are going to talk today, which we are enabling. We started with Slack and Lex. So some of the use case we have for the AI service is topic modeling in some business groups, and also forecasting engine to do demand forecasting, and anomaly detection when it comes to data quality, and RPA, and text analytics in some cases. And the next one is conversational bots. So we'll talk about conversational bot today.
Yeah, again, how the story started. It started from one of caveat of Snowflake as a platform. At one point, one of our senior executives was talking on the phone to one of major retailers, and during that conversation, he needed a number. So he called our CEO and he was complaining that refreshing of Tableau dashboard was taking too long. Well, it was taking too long. It was taking 2 minutes. But if you think that before, he would spend probably 2 weeks trying to prepare for a conversation to have that number, it should not be that bad. Nevertheless, we got called on the carpet and asked, how can we fix the problem? And we said, well, with Snowflake, as soon as you approve budget increase of about $20,000, yeah, we can fix that. How long? Well, 5 minutes or less. Because technically, scaling Snowflake takes just one command. You scale your warehouse, and yeah, it's consume credits a little bit faster, but by scaling warehouses, all these refreshes were taken less than 20 seconds with multiple reports on them, so that problem was really solved. But that solution actually made us think about this situation. Tableau dashboards are really amazing tool to see the trends, to understand kind of causes of different behavior of market response on your marketing promotions and releases, etc. But when you need that quick answer, when you are in the meeting and people expect you to quote some numbers, digging through Tableau dashboards is not the most efficient way of doing that. Imagine yourself sitting through the meeting where you have 20 people at the table, and they're looking at you, waiting for you to say something, and you click to open Tableau, click to sign in, click to find the right dashboard, click on 5 filters to actually get to that number and then try to read it from the graph. I mean, you lost your audience. They moved on. The conversation moved on and moment been lost. So we realized we need some solutions that will augment that experience. Not negate, not replace, augment that experience, but that solution should provide immediate answer to questions that are easy to ask. And that's when we started working on the idea of how can we make conversational analytics that will deliver data in secure manner, answering natural language question, but using that power of our Snowflake data warehouse behind the scene. And that's what the solution we come to will be a topic of our conversation today.
So when we thought about Splat said, what if we build something to answer simple questions instead of the users opening a Tableau dashboard, filtering, looking at the historical data, etc. What if we build something where you can ask question in plain English, get answered immediately, right? So Slack is a collaboration tool for our enterprise, and we thought about Slack. Okay, we have Slack. How about building something using Slack? And we have AWS. What is there in AWS? We have Lex, and our corporate data warehouse is Snowflake. Well, it's all on the cloud. So let's build it so that the business users can connect from mobile or desktop and wherever they are and whenever they need the data, right? And you can see here, this is the reference architecture. We have Slack Enterprise Grid, Snowflake, Amazon Lex, and we use Python, Lambda functions with Snowflake to get the data. The important point I want to call out here is the data security. So for us, in some areas where it's sales or finance, we restrict users by their access. So what I mean by that is, so I myself may have access to only a sales transaction from the United States, whereas Vlad may have from Europe, right? So we have this role-based security inbuilt as part of our architecture in Snowflake, and we want to take advantage of that and not to change anything to implement the Slackbot. That's an important thing. So what we did was, we thought we will take advantage of Active Directory. Well, let's not do that. We have SSO through Slack, Let's use that identity and federate it through Lambda to Lex to Lambda to Snowflake and filter at Snowflake and get the data back to Slack. So that is what we did, and we didn't change anything on the Snowflake side, or even we didn't change our model to improve performance or anything. We use a medium-sized warehouse for compute, and we did a POC. And as you know, like Slack has 30 seconds timeout, and most of our response coming back under microseconds.
So if you look at that, Amazon Lex has native integrations with several platforms, Slack being one of them. There are integrations with Facebook Messenger and some other interfaces, as well as you can build your own custom web page. We choose Slack for simple reason that it gives us advantage of single sign-on that's already inbuilt into Slack for us. Since we are on Slack Enterprise Grid, everybody in the company is using that anyway. That really reduces number of clicks to get to your answer. Your Slack is open in your desktop 24/7 anyway, on everybody's phone as well. So using that integration, we created Slackbot that integrates with Amazon Lex process. Inside Lex, multiple intents getting selected based on structure of the question, initial questions that you ask. As soon as a question is being identified with particular intent, Lex starts verifying slots population if it can derive individual values that needed to build a query out of that initial question phrase. If not all slots are populated, Lex will automatically follow up in that conversation in Slack to ask you follow-up questions. All this follow-up dialogue gets fed to Lambda functions that can redirect conversation if it's necessary to different intent, verify validity of slot values, as well as check on security content. It can verify if you, based on your identity, allowed to even get answers on that particular topic, or if that particular set of slot values that coming through initial question are even allowed for you. For example, like Kalai said, if you're allowed to see sales data for a year, but you're asking what were my sales in North America, that Lambda function will verify your profile context and politely decline answering the question if it's outside of your security realm. Once full question is formed, that set of slots from Lex session gets translated in query that goes to Snowflake. The big caveat is we didn't really need to do anything special on Snowflake side because we can reuse the same exact set of reporting tables that were used for Tableau dashboards. So essentially, that Lambda function is very sensitive because Slack has 3 seconds timeout time. And if your database is not responsive enough, you really will have kind of situation where most of your answers will be late and it will break. Technically, there are ways to overcome that, getting into asynchronous design, but we intentionally didn't want to do that because the whole purpose of the exercise was to give you immediate answers, not the answer you have to wait for minutes to get back to you, for answers that gets back to you immediately as you ask a question. And Snowflake, as a unique platform, was able to provide that service to Lambda function, getting query response in milliseconds. And millisecond query response really makes the whole event flow run smoothly. And we provided load test with multiple users, and we never had timeout issues. So as you can see on this diagram, as soon as your content of your profile is passing security validation and all slots are fulfilled, fulfillment Lambda function delivers query result as a JSON back to Slack, and you're getting your answer.
So a couple of things I want to call out here is, this is the data flow, how we know the initiation, how the user initiates the question and how the response coming back. But when we built the POC, we're debating between should we build one bot or multiple bots, or how do we set up intents? Should we have like one intent for sales performance versus another intent for something else? So we went through multiple iterations to find the right fit for us. So if you're planning to use Lex, something you may want to focus, how you want to frame your intents, and how do you want to organize your intents. That's number one. The second thing is, when you build Lambda functions, make sure you create layers to reduce your executable size.
Well, so what did we get out of that whole exercise? First of all, think about in a big corporate like ours, how much time people spend trying to find an answer. Even if this answer is available on some obscure web page, how do you know where to find it? We had multiple attempts of building some sort of employee experience web pages that help you navigate, search, and find business-related content. But what it means that you have to go through thousands of clicks to get there. You're trying to do search. That search probably gives you too many results. You have to scroll through. That search probably delivers you some results that are not relevant to your question, et cetera, et cetera. So all that affects productivity. What we're trying to achieve is to put all that load on the computer. Let Lambda function figure that out for you and deliver actual end results that is relevant. So think about how many times you do all these clicks to find business content. If we can shave seconds from every attempt, you do that, and you do it several times a day, and we have thousands of users. End of the year, you will end up with thousands of hours of productivity lost. Think about any kind of VIP, senators, CEOs, have administrative assistants behind their back who are always ready to kind of push them piece of papers that gives them answers and relevant content when they have a conversation. Reason for that is because their time is very valuable. Well, you cannot really put administrative assistants behind everybody's back, but everybody's time is valuable because it always can be spent with something better than just searching through content and trying to find the answer. So this Slackbot becomes that administrative assistant that always keeps you on the point, always gives you right information when you need it most. And it really saves time across the board in a big corporate.
And as we mentioned before, we have self-storage dashboards and reports, and which will coexist with this solution. We cannot replace self-service dashboards and reports, just enabling this solution. So this is to answer any simple questions anybody have, right? So that's the intention behind building this Slackbot. We started with sales analytics, we did a POC, and this can be applied in any data set you have, provided you properly organize it. With that, we have a quick demo, recorded demo, we'll play. So here is an example. This is our test grid. So I'm asking something in plain English. What's my pre-sales for FIFA 19? And you can see the response time. It's so you can also use relative dates, and you don't have to specify any date format or anything. I can ask for last month, last quarter, via examples. You can watch. So in this case, the Lex remembers the previous slots, so it knows I'm asking the revenue for Battlefield 4, and it will give you the revenue for Battlefield 4. You don't have to, ask for give me revenue for Battlefield 4. And simple questions like this: compare sales variance between two titles, right? First 3 weeks of launch. I don't have to open a dashboard or to look at the results. So you can ask a question through Slack. Yeah, so if you want to build questions, what is, how is, so you just need to train it a little bit, and the next time, based on the training intents, it will recognize your question and get you the right answer. So here is another cool thing. So we started with sales analytics, then we thought, okay, my boss is here, he'll ask me, what's the Snowflake usage last month? I have to open a dashboard. Now I'll tell him, hey, go look at, check with the bot. You can ask a question. You'll get the credit usage for our enterprise. So you can ask, September, last month, last week, or relative dates. And if you think about this, the implementation, it's pretty straightforward: Slack to Lex, Lambda, Snowflake. We didn't do anything complex. We didn't write a lot of code. It's only the Lambda implementation to get the request from Slack and send it to Snowflake and format the query, get the data back.
Oh.
And you can ask a question by project. You can ask, what's the warehouse usage? So we have dedicated warehouse for reporting versus ETL. So you can find out credit usage by asking simple questions.
Well, couple comments about this demo. As you saw in the demo, today we implemented this bot that invitable in direct dialogue, which means it's one-on-one conversation with the bot. There is capability of inviting bot even to a channel where multiple people can have group conversations and use bot inside the conversation as well. However, we kind of stayed away consciously from that so far because it seriously increases complexity of the dialogue, because as you can imagine, people inside group dialogue might ask sideways questions that could interrupt the bot flow, and we would have to design actual intent in order to follow the conversation properly. And that complexity grows really rapidly, so we decided to keep it simple at this point and just use it in direct dialogues, capable of answering direct questions like you saw, and leave that sort of group conversations as the future grows.
Yeah, basically you will use this as an app, like how we use Outlook in Slack, and ask your questions. So we are in Q&A, questions.
Yeah.
Who are the main users within your organization for the bot?
The one we built now, it's all people from sales, publishing, and demand planning.
BI people or business?
Business. Yeah. And we, as I said, like we have sales analytics. We also have the Snowflake credit usage, right? Somebody like Lija, I want to find out what is the Snowflake usage for last month. He can answer, right? It's both business and you can use it for operational as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Before using Snowflake, you mentioned there is a whole system where you have a big latency. That system was based on which technology?
It was Oracle Rack on premises. Oracle Rack on premises using VMware.
And you move from Oracle everything to Snowflake?
Yes, that's right.
How much time did the migration take?
Migration itself took less than a couple months. The biggest challenge was retesting of everything and proving to users that actual content in Snowflake was at par with whatever was there in Oracle. Especially, generation of report goes from several hours to seconds, people tend to become suspicious about the result.
So the way we strategized was, we migrated the reporting layer first and pointed Tableau to Snowflake. Then we did the other items like our, the core layer and data ingestion to Snowflake, so that the users are not impacted, right? So it migrated once, we were just pointing the ETL to two flows, to Oracle as well to Snowflake. So we were able to deliver quickly, then we worked behind the scenes to migrate other parts.
Yeah, sure.
And which technology did you guys choose to do the ETL?
Python,
question.
we used to have Informatica. We still have Informatica a little bit, but it's all Python. Because with Snowflake, it's all ELT, right? No ETL. So it's all done in the database. So we use Python frameworks. Yeah.
So, yes, residual of Informatica is mostly to extract data from legacy systems, since we already had existing processes that do that, but the entire load and actual processing now is transferred to Snowflake with ELT, like I said, using Python. Because just efficiency and scalability, elasticity of Snowflake is at such level that doing that with any tool that needs to extract data for external massaging and then inserting the Snowflake becomes counterproductive. Yes?
And for conversational analytics, did you consider a commercial solution like ThoughtSpot?
We looked at ThoughtSpot. It was kind of an early stage of them. But once again, ThoughtSpot, the same like new version of Tableau that has conversational analytics, still requires people to go into separate tools that we have to integrate, deal with SSO integration, all those questions. Slack, on the other hand, is already adopted by everybody in the company as main kind of interaction tool. So for people, it's the same seamless experience like talking to any other person. They do use Slack every day to talk to people in different regions because company is geographically dispersed. So for people doing that in Slack is kind of absolutely natural experience.
Got it, thank you.
Yes, please. Do you mind to come to the mic so we can hear you better? Yeah.
My question is, how do you track accuracy of responses that are coming back? And like, do you use like more questions that are coming from users to make answers better? How do you track accuracy?
Big part of that is internal Lex capability of improving Lex responses. So technically, you don't really have to code around that to retrain Lex. Lex retrains itself. So based on kind of experience and follow-up questions, Lex retrains itself. But you can also go and add additional key phrases to particular intent when you see that multiple failures in a log. You can add additional key phrases to kind of fine-tune your intents. That's especially important when you have intents that are really close, and sort of initial question might be a little bit confusing for Lex to pick which intent is the correct one for that particular purpose. So based on analyzing history, you can just simply through AWS console, add additional key phrases that would be identified with particular intent and improve end user experience.
And like, is there a mechanism where you have like, if like we are not confident, if the response is like, let us say response confidence score is like 0.5 or something, don't get back. Will there be a scenario where like? Yeah,
there will be scenarios when you will get negative response that bot will essentially tell you, I don't quite understand what you're trying to ask. Or bot will tell you that, yes, sorry, you're not authorized to see this data. So yes, there will be kind of negative responses as well, obviously.
So we captured that as all that as part of exceptions, and we look at it and we retrain them. We retrained Lex. But some of the basic things like what is, what are, right? Questions. It's all taken care by Lex. We don't have to create multiple intents or singular, plural, things like that.
Thank you.
Does your bot support multiple languages?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. So far, we stick to English, and multi-language support is something down the road on the roadmap.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks.
Okay.
Any more questions?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.